What we call laziness is not a moral failure, it's not a personality trait. It is a neurobiological state, a pattern your nervous system has been conditioned into by repeated exposure to passive reward, shallow stimulation, and misaligned rhythms. Dopamine is not pleasure. It's not excitement. It's not the rush from a notification or the sugar in your coffee. Dopamine is the neurochemical of pursuit. It is the signal the brain sends when it sees something worth moving toward. Every act of discipline, every surge of motivation, every moment of clarity when the world fades and all that exists is the goal ahead. It's dopamine guiding that system like fire in the bloodstream. But the world has lied to us about this molecule. It has made us believe dopamine is something to indulge, something to chase passively through cheap reward. But in reality, dopamine was never meant to be flooded by likes, sugar, or endless entertainment. It was meant to be earned through effort, through challenge, through forward action in the face of resistance. When dopamine is trained, when the brain learns that it rises not from consumption, but from movement, everything changes. Laziness is not weakness. It is a system flooded by unnatural highs that have stolen the capacity for sustained pursuit. But you can take it back because dopamine is trainable. Your nervous system is plastic. It molds itself to what you repeatedly do. And when you begin to link dopamine not to outcomes, but to the process of showing up, you begin to rewire the core of who you are. The brain starts rewarding the act of trying. It starts lighting up for effort, not just for winning, but for running toward the fire. This is not just science. It is scripture embedded in biology. That energy is given to the one who moves, to the one who walks by faith and not by sight, to the one who rises while others drift. Dopamine, when aligned with purpose, becomes holy. It is not an accident that the most focused, most driven, most fulfilled individuals are those who have chosen to suffer forward, not because they enjoy pain, but because they have trained their system to see effort as the reward. They know that every time they resist the lure of the easy path, every time they delay the fake hit for the real mission, they are building a brain that is harder to distract, stronger to endure, and more willing to pursue what matters when it hurts. You can feel it when this shift begins. The things that used to numb you start to lose their taste. The noise doesn't pull you like it used to. You wake up with a different kind of hunger, a divine one not for more comfort, but for conquest. You stop needing permission to start. You stop bargaining with your energy. You know that clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from it. And when you learn to generate your own dopamine through integrity, effort, breath, and movement, no one can take it from you. Because now, it's not something you wait for. It's something you build from within, again and again, until the system no longer doubts who it serves or why it wakes, until the mind and the body move as one, forward relentlessly, faithfully. Focus does not begin in the mind, it begins in the body. Long before your brain decides what to pay attention to, your physiology determines whether you're even capable of attention at all. The most powerful minds in history, those who created, conquered, led, and endured, did not operate from chaos. They operated from rhythm, and rhythm starts with three forces that shape the nervous system every single day: sleep, light, and movement. These are not optional habits. They are biological commands written into your design. If they are out of alignment, your focus will always be fragile. But when they are aligned, when your system is entrained to the cycle of nature, your brain becomes a weapon of precision. Sleep is not rest, it is reconstruction. It is during sleep that your brain recalibrates dopamine sensitivity, clears neurotoxic waste, and strengthens the circuits of learning, memory, and motivation. Miss this window, abuse it, and you wake up with a nervous system that is already limping before the day begins. But protect it, and you rise with clarity and chemical balance that sharpen your drive before the world even speaks. And the first thing that locks this system in place is light, natural light exposed to your eyes within the first hour of waking. This is what triggers the release of cortisol at the correct time. This is what anchors your circadian rhythm. This is what tells your body it is time to rise. And when this signal is missed, the rest of your neurochemistry drifts into disorder. But focus isn't just about hormones and light. It's also about the message you send your biology through movement. When you move your body in the morning, whether through walking, stretching, training, or breath, you are activating the brain's wakefulness systems. You are sending a wave of norepinephrine through your neural circuits. You are telling your brain, we are alive, we are in motion, we are pursuing something. And when movement is tied to rhythm, especially in a fasted state, you awaken the systems of clarity and pursuit without needing caffeine or chaos. You generate your own internal fire, and that fire is focus. This isn't a productivity hack. This is an act of alignment. A sacred decision to bring your biology under discipline, because your nervous system was never designed for artificial light at midnight. It was not meant to be still and overstimulated at the same time. It was built for rhythm, light, and pursuit. And when you obey that design, your body rewards you not just with energy, but with clarity. You don't have to beg for focus. It becomes the natural state of a system that is synced to truth. There is a holiness in this order. A power that comes from obedience to the pattern written into creation. Morning and night, rest and movement, light and stillness. These are not random. They are sacred. And when your sleep is protected, your light is prioritized, and your movement is intentional, your focus becomes unstoppable. Not because you forced it, but because you earned it through alignment. Eliminate background, reward to amplify foreground attention. The modern world is overflowing with noise, tiny dopamine hits disguised as entertainment, endless background stimulation, and micro rewards designed to fracture your attention and poison your discipline. Every time you reach for your phone out of boredom, every time you scroll without aim, every time you let noise creep into silence, you are training your brain to crave distraction and fear depth. You are not just losing focus, you are reshaping your nervous system to reject stillness, and stillness is where transformation begins. In your brain, the same circuits that process rewards also determine what you pay attention to. If your environment is constantly giving you background rewards, music while you work, notifications while you read, junk food while you plan, then the brain starts to associate ease with stimulation. And it stops valuing effort. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of focus, planning, and self-control, gets hijacked by a reward system that no longer waits. And when real work arrives, when silence demands depth, when discomfort calls for discipline, the system revolts. It wants to be fed, not forged. But this is reversible. The same brain that has been trained to scatter can be retrained to lock in. The key is to eliminate background dopamine, those invisible, low-effort rewards that weaken your focus and water down your drive. When you remove them, something powerful happens. The foreground task becomes the reward. You begin to find clarity in effort. You start to feel meaning in the monotony. The brain learns to release dopamine not from scrolling, but from solving. Not from switching, but from staying. This is where your identity is reforged, because now your nervous system begins to align with truth. You no longer chase stimulation to feel alive. You generate momentum through presence. Your system learns to link effort with reward, to associate deep work with fulfillment, to see resistance not as something to avoid, but something to lean into. You begin to break the chains of digital slavery, not by willpower alone, but by biological recalibration. And make no mistake, this is sacred. In a world addicted to passive consumption, silence becomes a revolutionary act, and focus becomes a form of worship, because to direct your full attention towards something meaningful with no noise, no escape, no sugar to keep you entertained, this is spiritual warfare. You are telling your biology, I am no longer a slave to the shallow. You are commanding your nervous system to rise, to rebuild, to rewire itself for something greater than comfort. You were not designed for fragmentation. You were not created to be pulled in 1,000 directions by invisible algorithms. You were built to build, to create, to lock eyes with a target and not blink. And when you begin to strip away the background noise, when you choose to be fully present with the task in front of you, you don't just get more done. You become someone else entirely. You become a person who does not chase focus. You become a person who carries it like fire. Use visual anchoring and controlled breathing to lock into deep work. The mind follows the eyes. That is not poetry. It is biology. Your visual system is hardwired into your nervous system, and where your gaze goes, your focus follows. When you lock your eyes on a single point, when you hold your visual attention without flicker, you're not just seeing, you're commanding your brain to stabilize, to eliminate background noise, to prioritize one signal and suppress all others. This is called visual anchoring, and it is one of the most powerful, underused tools for entering states of deep, undisturbed work. But the eyes are only half of the system, the other half is the breath. Controlled breathing, slow, deliberate, rhythmic, regulates the autonomic nervous system, shifting you out of hyper-activity and into laser-guided presence. It is not simply calming, it is controlling. Your inhale slightly activates the sympathetic branch, alertness. Your exhale activates the parasympathetic calm. Together, when balanced intentionally, they create the perfect physiological condition for focus, high alert, low anxiety. Not scattered energy, not manic effort, but pure, directed power. This is not about trying harder. This is about tuning your internal state like a dial, adjusting vision and breath to make your system unshakable. Start with the eyes. Choose a single object in your workspace, a dot on the screen, a small point in your environment. Fix your gaze. Keep your visual field narrow. When your eyes stop scanning, your brain stops scanning. The circuits of external search shut down. The circuits of internal depth ignite. Now add the breath. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6 to 8. Do this for 2 minutes. This is not wasting time. This is the ritual of access to your prefrontal cortex, to your goal, seeking circuits, to the very part of the brain that controls your decisions, your behavior, your future. This protocol is spiritual in its simplicity. It doesn't ask for technology. It doesn't ask for hacks. It asks for presence. It asks that you return to the design that has always been there, your breath, your eyes, your attention. And when you align those systems, your focus is no longer conditional. You no longer need perfect motivation. You don't need caffeine. You don't need silence. You become the silence. You become the order in the chaos. Because now your nervous system is anchored, not by willpower, but by biology, by discipline, by the sacred mechanics of how the body supports the mind. The battlefield of distraction is not outside you. It's internal. It's in the way your eyes dart, the way your breath shortens, the way your system reacts instead of responds. But when you take command of sight and breath, you are no longer reacting, you are leading, you are walking into every task with a nervous system calibrated for clarity and depth. Not because it's easy, but because it's trained, because you chose to use the tools written into your biology to step into dominion over your mind. Focus is not a mood, it's a system, and that system begins with vision and breath. Segment time with deliberate breaks to sustain high-performance states. The brain is not built for endless output. It's built for rhythmic excellence, bursts of intense focus, followed by moments of recovery. This is the biological law of performance. Tension, then release. Engagement, then renewal. It's not weakness. It's design. When you force yourself into long, unbroken hours of work without rest, your cognitive performance doesn't just plateau, it collapses. But when you honor the natural cadence of your nervous system by segmenting time and strategically inserting recovery, you create a cycle where focus renews itself over and over without burnout. Every 90 to 120 minutes, your brain enters what's known as an ultradian rhythm, a wave of peak alertness followed by a drop. Ignore that drop. and you start fighting against your biology. Honor it, and you unlock a reservoir of sustainable energy and mental clarity. During the high phase, you engage fully, no distraction, no multitasking, full immersion in the task. But when the rhythm shifts, you don't push through with brute force, you reset, you step away, you breathe. You allow the nervous system to downshift so that it can rise again stronger, cleaner, sharper. This is not laziness. This is mastery. The elite don't grind endlessly, they oscillate with intelligence. They structure their time so that the brain gets what it needs to stay locked in for hours, days, years. And it is in these breaks, not in the hustle, that consolidation happens, ideas form, memory strengthens, motivation replenishes, dopamine resets. The prefrontal cortex, your center for planning and decision making, comes back online with more clarity than before. You're not losing time, you're gaining sharpness, you're not slowing down, you're becoming surgical, and the break is not wasted time. It's sacred space, a moment to reconnect with your breath, a chance to step outside and let sunlight re-anchor your circadian rhythm. A pause to write, to pray, to simply be still in a world that demands constant motion. And in that stillness, the fire is rekindled. The hunger returns not artificially, but biologically. You don't have to chase momentum anymore. It becomes a natural cycle that you ride like a wave, instead of swimming against it until you drown. This is how the mind was formed to work, not like a machine, but like a living system. And when you follow this design, your discipline becomes joyful. Your effort becomes sustainable. You no longer fear fatigue because you've built recovery into your strategy. You no longer need to rely on adrenaline and chaos. You can move with calm precision day after day because your system is cared for, not pampered, but honored. There is something deeply spiritual about this pattern. God created the world in rhythms light and dark, work and rest, 6 days of building followed by a day of renewal. And when you live by that same law, when you structure your day in segments of deep work and recovery, you are not just being productive. You are aligning yourself with the blueprint of creation. You are no longer burning out your flame. You are guarding the fire so it never dies. Repetition wires identity, build a system, not just a goal. Your brain doesn't believe what you tell it. It believes what you show it over and over with action. Repetition is not routine, it is reprogramming. Every time you repeat a behavior, you are laying down pathways in the brain, real, physical trails in your nervous system that make that action easier to access next time. This is the foundation of neuroplasticity. The more you show up, the more your brain says, "This is who we are now." Not because of emotion, not because of hype, but because the system is being trained into a new identity, one habit, one choice, one act of discipline at a time. Goals are fleeting. They are important, but they are temporary. A goal gives direction, but a system gives identity. The man who says, "I want to write a book," is chasing an outcome. The man who writes every day at 6 a.m., regardless of motivation, is becoming a writer. The woman who says, "I want to be fit," is hoping. But the woman who trains her body with intention every morning, even when it's cold, even when she's tired, even when no one's watching, she is becoming unshakable. Because her system is stronger than her feelings, this is how the brain is recoded, not with willpower, but with consistency and structure. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that governs planning, focus, and action, relies on predictability. When you do the same thing at the same time, in the same way, your brain stops resisting. It stops negotiating. It begins to obey. You no longer have to convince yourself every morning. You just do it because it's wired now. It's who you are, but there's something deeper. Repetition doesn't just create mental patterns. It creates spiritual authority. Because when you show up again and again, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when everything around you says quit, you are proving to your body, your brain, and every lie that ever whispered you're not enough, that you are no longer led by emotion. You are led by mission, and mission is built by systems. Systems that don't wait for the mood, systems that operate in truth. The world tells you to wait until you're inspired. But biology says the opposite. Act first. Identity follows action. You become disciplined by acting disciplined. You become focused by structuring your day for focus. You become the person you were called to be by repeating the acts that person would do. Not once, but daily, not perfectly, but consistently, because every time you repeat the system, you strengthen the signal. And every time you deviate, the old patterns try to return. This is not about intensity, it is about devotion. And that is the word devotion, not just strategy, not just planning, but spiritual commitment to act in alignment with the person you are becoming. Systems create freedom, and repetition becomes worship when it's done in service of purpose. The brain was built to follow. So give it a path, and walk it daily until the path becomes you.